Are you ready?
Good news, everyone!
I'm the surprise in your cereal box. I'm
great! Everybody else sucks!
I said, are you ready?
Yes, sir, random kid I just met.
It's Jake Ciely.
Hooray! People are paying attention to me.
That's right! You're always blaming me!
So, my reputation exceeds me.
It's time to check the link.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
You know what? You just made the list!
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn!
What is up, you ducks? We love the Drake. It is All in Football on FTN with Chris Meaney and myself. Make sure you're checking out everything in FTN. Code ALLIN. Get you 20% off. And at The Athletic, you can click on any of the articles. Got waivers coming out tonight, midnight, depending on when you're watching this, though. Tonight, midnight, Tuesdays, East Coast time. So make sure you check that out. And Chris, yes, we love the Drake. We love one Drake, not the other Drake. We hate the Drake and love the Drake. We hate the Drake, Kenyon Drake. Hopefully, yes. J.K. Dobbins comes back for the Baltimore Ravens. But we do love the Drake of Drake London, who is, hey, look, everything we hoped he would be. You know, a lot. I'm not the only one that out there said he was the best wide receiver in the draft class, but he's looking good. He's looking really good. Although Garrett Wilson's looking really good. We're going to talk about all those ones, but
yeah,
who actually, like, you know, this is kind of like a maybe, I don't know, a cliche question, if that could be a thing, but like, who most made you go like, wow, from week 2? Not okay, we're going to talk about Trey Lance and everything, but like on a good side. Was it Drake London or was it Garrett Wilson or was it somebody else altogether?
It's probably those two, yeah. Those were my two favorite rookie wide receivers out of the class. I really, really like Garrett Wilson. He just plays with a lot of confidence. I like his route running ability, and when he gets the ball in his hands, he's got that little shimmy shuffle. He's a really good player, and I was excited about his day yesterday. That was probably the one that surprised me the most because I just figured, you know, with all of those Jets wide receivers, a lot of them got looks in week 1. And the way that they came back in that game, mostly that is on Cleveland and Stefanski, the way that they finished that game out. But really credit to Garrett Wilson. I thought he looked fantastic. And Drake London is here. He's awesome. I mean, kind of stinks for Kyle Pitts, right? We've had 2 games now. We've had
we need to talk
5
about
fantasy
that.
points. That's rough. But Drake London looks like a player. And as soon as they get a comparable quarterback in there, because there was a couple times yesterday where, yeah, they do. There was a couple times yesterday I noticed where Drake London, you know, was wide open. He came back to the football, came back a couple times, and Mariota didn't really see him. So his day actually could have been a little bit better. But yeah, London looks real nice.
London does look real nice. Yeah, Garrett Wilson
and James Robinson. That's the other guy.
Continue. James Robinson continues to. Achilles means nothing. Man. I mean, Shepard didn't do a lot, but his needs nothing. And guess what? Cam Akers is back. Cam Akers. Here's the thing. Let's talk about this. Let's get to it. There's a lot of backfield splits in the NFL right now. We're going to talk about all. That's pretty much going to be the theme of today's show, it seems. Oof. Actually, you know what? Let's real quickly talk about Kyle Pitts before we get to the backfield. So, because we're on this team, I don't want to jump back to this team on a completely different subject. You brought up Kyle Pitts 2 weeks in a row, very low usage. Arthur Smith asked about it, and I went on Twitter. I got mad about this. Like, head coaches and everything, they stopped blaming fantasy. I know that like people out there in the fantasy world tweet at you, and I know fantasy football managers they get under our skin too. Like, we're playing 33% talent, 33% management, 33% luck. There's only so much you could do. But the management is the question. Somebody asked him the lack of use of Kyle Pitts. You spent the 4th pick when you had other needs. You have somebody who is one of the best. Coda, go lay down. I have the fiance's dog is here. She doesn't know like Barkley. She doesn't know the how this works. But anyway, you spent the 4th overall pick. You get very little use out of him, and he blames fantasy. It's like, because this is the NFL and we're trying to win games. It's not fantasy football. Well, guess what? You didn't win the game. And guess what? Yeah. Using one of the best players at his position in the NFL, let alone your top 2 talent on your team, has nothing to do with fantasy. It's a valid question, but for fantasy purposes, Chris, how worried are you about this usage for Kyle Pitts?
I'm worried, man. Like, of course I'm worried. To take this guy, In your flex league, I think I took him in the 3rd or the 4th. I know that was a super flex and maybe a little bit later on. But if you took this guy, you drafted him early enough as the 3rd tight end off the board. You may have had to be a little aggressive to get him in round 3, potentially round 4. He played more snaps than anyone on the Falcons. He ran more routes than anyone, but he's not really doing anything out there. And he's not getting any looks. Like, not to say he's not doing anything. I see some people saying he's out there blocking and things, but he's out there running routes, and Mariota's not really looking his way. So it's a little concerning. It's just 2 games into the season with a new quarterback, but clearly Drake London is the guy in that offense. And, Cordell Patterson's getting a lot of run on the ground. So I don't know. We're giving Ducks. I know it's a tight end position. There's a lot of dud tight ends. I mean, Cole Kmet's put up zeros. Guys that you like, Kmet, Nerve Smith, and Joku, these guys aren't doing anything. Hunter Henry puts a 0. You're just hoping for your tight end to touch get a couple touches, maybe a couple touchdowns. Dalton Schultz looks like he's going through something too. So it's an awful position, but you need to get something more from Cole Kmet. So I'd give him. You're giving Ducks. He's got to have like 3. I'm concerned.
Okay, well, yeah, Cole Kmet just erased from existence. Similar situation, like expected. Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, Amari Cooper, who bounced back this week. It wasn't week 1, but he did get it in week 2. Kyle Pitts and London. These types of situations where we're saying volume is going to offset any of these issues. But the problem with Atlanta is they're not throwing to Pitts much. Mariota's not throwing to Pitts much because they have Drake London, which was the assumption. Like the 2 would just be fine. It would just be those 2. But it seems to be taking away from Pitts. The Bears they don't throw the ball, period. They're running. Is this Georgia Tech or Navy? Are we going to start seeing the wishbone triple option out there? 10 attempts, dude? 10 attempts?
I know. That's 2 games. We chalked it up last week to the weather, but also this is something that you and I talked about in the offseason with the new coaching that was brought in, the scheme, running the rock with Fields and with both running backs. Montgomery looked pretty good yesterday. And they didn't do anything in the offseason. It was very telling. What did they do in the offseason for Justin Fields?
I tell you what.
Absolutely nothing. They don't want to throw the ball.
Nagy is sitting at home laughing his ass off right now. Yeah. I mean, it definitely could change. But, as of right now, Nagy's like, yeah, my fault. Yeah, my fault. Let's see how this goes. So speaking of fault, holy crap, Nathaniel Hackett.
Until they started to run either. Yeah, sorry to jump in. Oh, my goodness, Hackett. We don't have time in the day to talk about that guy. Holy crap.
How does he still have a job?
5 Ducks.
I mean, they won.
For the Broncos offense.
I mean, if they would have lost, I'd just be like, just fire Hackett on the spot. Good God. All right, but let's talk about these backfields. I do want to talk Cam Akers because it was fun to see Cam Akers back. The frustrating part was they had a timeout. Akers was on the field. After it, Henderson came. It was when Henderson got his touchdown. Akers was on the field before that switch happened. But that brings up the interesting point. Yes, Akers is back. But Akers isn't back in 70%. Akers is back in 55-45. This is Denver Broncos last year, not this year's Denver Broncos. This is Akers and Henderson, 1-to-1. Henderson's out there right now through week 2. If you just take week 2, because week 1 looks like, Akers got the message, doghouse, whatever it might be, soft tissue, whatever. That's out. Akers looks good. Akers looked really good in the game. But the 3rd down, and then the interesting thing was that Henderson was seeing most of the passing game and long game work, but then he did get goal line touches, which is what you want. When you have a split like this, let's say Dameon Harris or Ramondre Stevenson, if both healthy. You say, I want the guy who's getting the goal line touches because that split is just, unless it's completely passing game and completely running game, then you say, all right, well, they're both fine. But you generally want the one like Dameon Harris last year. That was supposed to be Akers. But through week 2, at least in week 2, that was Henderson at least 50% of the time, almost I think actually 2/3 of the time. Yeah. So if you're heading into week 3, as of today, Chris, Akers over Henderson, back to back, Henderson over Akers still, where are you going with this?
I would still, they're really close, pretty tight, but we kind of figured, this is another thing, we kind of figured it would be a split until Akers, was feeling healthy and talent would overtake it. And yeah, that drive was pretty... It was frustrating, and it wasn't, you know what I mean? Because if you're an Akers fan and you had him and you didn't start him, it was really nice. That drive was fantastic. He had a couple catches. He had a couple really nice runs. And to your point, the timeout happened, and then Henderson came in and had the goal line touchdown. And a little bit later on in the game, we saw them get inside the red zone again, and Henderson got stuffed a couple times. But I would probably go Akers over Henderson. I still think Henderson is probably the safer play if you're looking at this week because of the goal line stuff that you mentioned. But I think over time, Akers will at least take this backfield where it's 70-30, and Henderson he doesn't have the cleanest track record in terms of health. So I still think that Akers will overtake him. But that was a positive showing from Cam Akers. We can't be too greedy. Can't be too greedy on the show. We got touches, we got carries.
I still try to buy low because of what you said. That last point is the fact that Henderson's track record from injuries. If Henderson got hurt next week, I mean, sky's the limit for Akers. Like Kyron Williams, fine, they like him. But it's going to probably be 70 to 80% workload for Cam Akers, and they get Jacksonville at home next week. I lean slightly Akers too, but I think they're going to be very close. And let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum, to one that was god-awful worse. But, you know what? I was waiting until 11 o'clock because we started early this week. Got a doctor's appointment trying to squeeze in, so we started a little bit early to try to get there or whatever. But anyway, so Xbox contest still going this week. You have 3 days left, today, tomorrow, Wednesday. Actually, the rest of this week if you get your entries in before this week is it. So a reminder, Xbox Series X giveaway is next week. This is the last week to enter. I've got a lot of your submissions. I've actually got over 50 so far, which still tells you have a pretty good chance. And so I have an interesting way of how we're going to give it away on the show. But anyway, here's the reminder. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe and review on iTunes. And then make sure you're following FTN Fantasy on Twitter. All 3 screenshots, email them to jseely@theathletic.com. That's it. And you're entered. So let's continue on the other end of it. The Seattle Seahawks. Walker is back. And it got gross. It was not just Penny and Walker. It's Travis Homer. This is a full-blown committee. Like, it was just like, okay, it'll be fine. It'll be Penny. On the other side of this, Chris, how many plays do you think the Seahawks have run through the first 2 weeks?
Oh, like near the bottom. I'm pretty sure.
They are the bottom. They haven't even run 100. They haven't even run 100 plays yet.
Sub
2
weeks.
weeks.
I was going to say sub 1. Yeah, under 100. Yeah.
So here's the issue is that if Ken Walker was going to be the Cam Akers and get the goal line opportunities and Rashad Penny could explode, okay, that's fine. Except it might be 7 touches in a game for both of them right now, especially if you're going to use Travis Homer in the passing game. It's just a full fade. Or we just like stay 100% away?
I think so. Yeah, I think you got to look for better options. It's going to be inconsistent. Carroll's going to ride the hot hand. You mentioned Travis Homer in there. I think he was top 10 in terms of targets among running backs for the week. They're going to be playing from behind basically all year. They had their Super Bowl win. It was week 1. It was in a high emotional game against, Russell Wilson came back into town, and it's not shocking to see them go into San Fran and lay an egg there. This is going to be one of the worst teams in football. There's really no sugarcoating it. So I don't know how many plays they're going to run on average, right? They're probably going to play at a quick pace. But, man, they're going to have
They're not even averaging 50 plays a game. That's
awful. I told people to pick up Walker, who's hanging around waiver wires. Like, you should be on your bench. But I'm so hesitant to start.
At this point of the year, that's a good example. Like, I'm glad you said that because it's week 2. At this point in the season, you haven't even lost that many running backs. Maybe 1 so far that we've even talked about. It was Elijah Mitchell. So I said for a Hail Mary start at running back, I said, hey, maybe Ken Walker can fall into the end zone. Like, I don't even think you can do that with any of them now. Like, they're just like full fade on the Seahawks, and it's going to be DK or Lockett. It looks like. Good God, if either one of them ever have 2 combined good weeks.
Good for him. Racking a bunch of points on my bench.
So, similar to Akers, are we celebrating the return of Pierce? Is Pierce like?
I think so.
Wow. Last week on the show, I said we know shoe's going to drop at some point for Rex Burkhead.
Yeah.
I admittedly, I was one of the biggest Dameon Pierce fans there was. Yeah. I admittedly sat here and was like, it's not going to fall off of week 2, but it did. Like week 1 ended, Rex Burkhead ran off. The shoe was left on the steps. Dameon Pierce came out and had no idea where Rex Burkhead went to and picked up the shoe and said, fine, I'll wear the glass slipper because it's Dameon Pierce time already.
It is. I wish I'd trust my own process because last week I had him in the bet tracker over 11.5 carries. He was stuck on 11. And then this week I saw 10.5 and I was like, I can't do it. I need to see it first. And now we may just never get 10.5. But I was totally shocked. He had every single running back carry. Jeff Driscoll had a carry. Rex Burkhead did not have a carry. He was just limited to third down opportunities. I think he played every third and long. He was limited to the 2-minute drill. I was pretty shocking. So 15 carries, 69 yards for Dameon Pierce. That's great news, guys. We talked about him being a buy low candidate on this network all week. It wasn't a great game, but he got 100% of the rushing carries from running back. So that's a huge positive for him. I did not see that coming, though.
Do you want to know who I wish I would have trusted my process with? Is my loathingness of Cordero Patterson. And then I sat there and said, you know what? Algier couldn't even be active in week 1. Cordell Patterson, yes, Dameon Williams didn't come back into that game, but they gave him all the work. And he looked good. Like, he did not look good. Like, he looked great in week 1. I'm like, fine. Algier is active, but Algier, wasn't in week 1. He's basically between the tackles type. He didn't even look that good in the game, admittedly. You and I are both Algier, like, late round dart throws. Just take the chance. And he didn't look that great in that game. And then Cordell Patterson, 50-50 split with him. And, like, he didn't look that good. Do you think this swings back and Atlanta goes back to Cordell Patterson for the effectiveness? Or do we think we're back into a 50-50 split going forward? Because that usage in that game where they did not adjust and go away from Algier makes me think we're stuck in a 50-50 and Cordell Patterson is back to being frustrating RB3 value.
Yeah, I think so. That was probably the time to sell high on him, I wonder. I wouldn't be trying to acquire him. I think they drafted Algier for a reason. He's like that prototypical running back on their squad. Like Williams is not that guy, and I don't think Cordero is that type of guy either. Yeah, Mike Davis, my goodness. He almost had a touchdown yesterday. That's another backfield. Holy crap. Yeah, I think, Algier has probably dropped everywhere. I've stashed him where I could. It's another bad offense. We just talked about Arthur Smith off the top, maybe not understanding everything. But he did get a couple goal line looks. Maybe not goal line. It was red zone opportunities. He didn't do anything with them, to your point. Like, he didn't look great running the rock. But yeah, maybe it's opportunity for him. But when Dameon is healthy and he's back, then what? Bloody mess.
Bloody mess. Did you move overseas for that one? A bloody mess.
It's a bloody mess. That's the only place Kyle Pitts knows how to score a touchdown overseas. Only place he's ever scored one.
There you go. That's Jacksonville's hometown, man. So I'll save Chase Edmonds for tomorrow because that's Lauren's boy. And yeah, exactly. So we're gonna save that one for tomorrow. James Robinson and Travis Etienne, same usage again. James Robinson the lead, Etienne passing down, longer verse, but James Robinson sees some of that. It's gonna be hard. Like, Jacksonville looks what I said this year. They look like a breakout team this year. Don't be surprised if they make noise. I kept saying this to the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I think that you're still looking for Etienne is going to be a dicey RB3. This is basically kind of trying to play the matchups, although right now through 2 weeks, it's kind of tough to judge these matchups, which is, again, if you played a Survivor and somehow you're still alive through 2 weeks, I saw a lot of people like picking the Browns. I saw a lot of people lose on like who else? The Bengals and stuff like
Bengals.
Survive in advance, people. Why? Like, survive in advance.
That's it. Yeah,
like
Bills. It was Ravens last week. It's Bills this week, and next week I don't even know, man. It looks even.
I know. I looked at next week and I was like, Chargers if Herbert's out there, but if it's not Chargers, do you play Chiefs on the road? Granted, it's the Titans, but it's like it's the Chiefs. Like, it's on the road. Like, I hate road games. Survive in advance, people. Like, stop trying to think about week 15. Most of these Survivor leagues have 60% knocked out already.
Oh yeah. There's like, one that my league. There's 250 people that started, and there's like 35 people left. I've never seen anything like it for the first 2 weeks. I know.
Just make it through. So, Breece Hall and Michael Carter, that game, it looks like we're starting to push towards the Breece Hall side. It's slow, but like we're getting there. And I think if you're going to get out Michael Carter in an inexperienced league, I know there's a lot of savvy leagues out there, and a lot of people are going to be like, I can't trade away Michael Carter for whatever. But if you can get Michael Carter RB2 value, we're fans of Michael Carter. But that usage in that game, the shift is coming. It's still like 55-45, but I think it's going to keep creeping and creeping and creeping. And my fear is that we get to 70-30.
Yeah, I think so. The one thing that really bothered me in that game yesterday watching was that Ty Johnson found a way to get on the field in third down situations. What was that? I don't understand that at all. And if it wasn't for coaches. A timeout, yeah, like what the heck are you guys doing? You have two really good pass catching backs. They just proved it in week 1. Carter has the 5 grabs in yesterday, and Breece Hall only had 1, which he converted to a touchdown, which was great on that play.
They'll never expect us to use Ty Johnson.
Yeah, I don't think he got – I think the only reason he got in was a timeout. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 90% sure because I had a close eye on that game. I definitely dropped the ball on a Breece Hall over 14.5 receiving yards. I thought he would get there. But it was Ty on that whole play moving them up. Not that he was involved in helping moving them up the field, but he was actually just on the field. And then a tight end a touchdown or, oh my goodness, a timeout happened. And then all of a sudden Breece Hall comes in. I'm like, okay, here we go. And he has a touchdown. Then we didn't see it again. It was mostly Michael Carter. But I think the change is, I think we chatted about this last week about how I would maybe rank Hall ahead of Carter, but they'd be neck and neck. I think moving forward, there's people out there that have both. I've seen those questions. I would probably roll maybe one more week here with Carter, but they're both like flex options. But I think Hall overtakes him. It's only a matter of time. He looks really good.
It does look really good. All right, let's talk a little bit of wide receivers before we get out of here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to set a timer on you, Chris. You're only allowed a 30-second answer because we got like 4 minutes left.
Okay, yeah.
So.
Quick hits. Here we go.
Quick hits. Amari Cooper, enough to see in week 2 that he's back over the Donovan Peoples-Jones in week 1.
Yeah. Outlier game, Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Outlier?
Right.
Amari Cooper, top 36 going forward, top 24?
He's a wide receiver 3. That showed that he has upside to be a 2. He's a 3. There'll be some inconsistencies.
And what are wide receiver 3s? But guys who have those kind of games, a lot of usable, but you have some weeks like week 1. So
exactly.
I think Amari Cooper's fine. I saw the comment. Somebody said they got Amari Cooper dropped in the league and they picked him up.
Wow.
Don't overreact. Don't overreact to 1 or 2. It's still only 2 weeks. Let's not forget Kevin Ogletree for his first 2 weeks of the Dallas Cowboys from years and years ago. And then nothing after the first 2 weeks. So relax, everybody. Washington Commanders. I admittedly had Curtis Samuel in the 30s because he was the slot use and everything like that. But the answer seems to be it's not just one might be left out. It's none are left out. It's all 3 of them. At some point, Chris, all 3 are going to continue to hit in every single week. And actually, Terry McLaurin was the worst of the 3 at 75 yards. But are we rolling them out there? And Carson Wentz, a good pivot to, like, if you lost Trey Lance, if you're streaming quarterbacks, just go grab Carson Wentz?
Yeah, I'm going to look for Wentz in the league that I lost Trey Lance. I lost him in a couple spots. Yeah, I think so. It looks like a pass-happy offense. So, I mean, they're chucking. Wentz is spreading it around. I think all 3 can be in lineups. You know, Terry obviously has a higher ceiling. Dotson, I think, could be played as a flex. And I think Curtis Samuel as well.
Okay. Then let's continue on. By the way, get out on Antonio Gibson. Brian Robinson, like, doing things I can't even do with 2 healthy legs.
He was a sell high candidate after week 1. And he got no catches, really. It was J.D. McKissick back catching balls when they needed him to down the stretch. Yeah.
Still looked good, though. Here, let's go down south to a team playing their quarterback with 4 broken bones in his back.
Oh, my goodness.
Has Olave through 2 weeks already passed Jarvis Landry. Week 1, it was Jarvis Landry's back. And now it's Chris Olave is the greatest thing on God's green earth. Like we're all fans of Chris Olave. I'm surprised you didn't bring him up at the beginning of the show when I said of all the wide receivers because he's the one. Yeah. 300 air yards in one game, only 6 wide receivers, like all this, like everybody's Chris Olave bananas time. So is it Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, and is Michael Thomas back to just being a wide receiver 1 like he was, or is he still a wide receiver 2?
He's probably still a wide receiver 2, but man, he's close. Like, who do you bump out of the wide receiver 1 conversation? I think that's just it, right? So, he definitely has upside. He's got 3 touchdowns now in 2 games. He looks good. He looks great. Great discount. Hopefully he stays healthy. That's it for Michael Thomas. As long as he stays healthy, I mean, he could get 10 touchdowns. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts in a full season. Yeah, I kind of overlooked Olave, even though I knew he led the way in targets and things like that. Yeah, I'd say it was a really good game from him. A lot of volume, which is what you want. So just game number 2 with Jameis. But man, I have Jameis concerns. Yikes.
Speaking of injuries, 2 things before we get out of here. We're going to talk James Conner tomorrow. Hopefully get some kind of word so we can talk waivers with Lauren. A real quick advice piece. It is in my Fantasy 101. I know Chris agrees. The answer of like a Gabe Davis for tonight, we got the word that he's 99% likely out. But as a reminder, if you're waiting for a Sunday night, Monday night football game with an injury question mark, if you don't have a backup option in that game, do not risk waiting and taking a 0. If your backup option is like a boom or bust flyer, that's on you to make your decision with your lineup. I'm not saying like I'm not passing the buck here, but like I'll give you an example real quick. You know, if you're waiting for tonight's game, let's say Gabe Davis was still in the air and your backup option is Isaiah McKenzie. Nice, but he could go, you know, it could be like the replacement that we saw from Paris Campbell, big fat 0. That's the risk. If you have a decent option, I don't usually wait if you have a decent option. If you think your team needs that home run play to wait on Gabe Davis type situation, then you make that decision for yourself. Quickly, before we get out of here, I'm going to ask Lauren the same question, but this is a big one. I want to get yours as we get out. Najee Harris concern, 1 to 5 ducks. How many are you giving him? Because that offense is struggling. Ooh, look at listen.
Pickens was wide open too. Like, let's get Kenny in there. Maybe he can look his way. I'd say like 3.5. I don't know. It's always going to be there in terms of touches. He's just not going to be that efficient. Like he was, I think, top 5 in opportunities. It's just the Steelers' offense looks awful, looks brutal. The offensive line isn't great. That's it. And he's not getting as many.
Let's get some Ritter
jump
and
offs
Pickett
like
this
right?
year at some point.
Absolutely. Only matters.
Hopefully Malik Willis too. I would love to see Malik Willis before the end of the year. And hopefully you love to see us back tomorrow with Lauren as we talk waivers and worries and all these type of stuff. Reminder to enter the contest. Reminder, follow Chris Meaney at Chris Meaney. FTN Fantasy is the account on Twitter. And we'll be back. Thanks for the early show. Hope you guys go back and watch it. We'll see you tomorrow.